Papa told me I couldn't do a lot of things.
I feel like I'm the chosen one.
Look at this. We created this. This didn't exist before we were here. All we are is proud and passionate. I love Toronto. I love this team. And we're going to the NBA Finals. Let's go!
Nothing matters but winning.
Welcome back to episode 54 of Rapzville Weekly. I'm your co-host, Gabriel, here with...
I'm Kasuchi.
And today we have two regular season games to bring you all. We have the Toronto Raptors versus the Philadelphia 76ers and the Toronto Raptors versus the New York Knicks. Before we get into that, as always, please like and subscribe. Check out the other videos on our channel and leave comments down below, your opinions. If it's similar than ours, different, what you saw in the game. And we just want to hear your opinions as well. Add to the conversation. And we're going to talk about both games. New York Knicks, obviously we did end up winning that game. Our record for the regular season as of right now is 1-3, 1 win, 3 losses. Obviously not the best. And before we get into the good stuff, we're going to have to talk about the bad, specifically the 76ers game and what went wrong. But two guys that played really well in that game that we want to talk about first are Kyle Lowry and OG Anunoby. Kyle Lowry, he had a very solid, first half in general. When the team started to go down, mentally they weren't really there. We weren't down in terms of the score, but we looked like we were just playing horribly. He was the one that brought the intensity and the aggressiveness. In the first half alone, he had 12 points, 4 boards, 6 assists. He rebounded really well, including good box outs, especially on bigs. He did a really good job at playing. Even though he's very undersized compared to that Philly lineup, he held his own very well, and that's where his strength comes into play. And he created a lot for his teammates. We noticed that in the first half. And in the second as well, he showed how much he really wanted to play, how much he wanted to win. You know, he always loves to beat Philly. He's North Philly's finest. And he really was trying his best to get his shots to fall, even though some weren't falling for him. What stood out to me was his defense. It was absolutely beautiful. His pressure on the guards was insane. On the inside, on bigger players attacking him, just putting 2 hands up, drawing charges. He was doing it all. Even on guys like Embiid, he had so solid defense on the inside. It was crazy. And he was able to end with 24 points, 8 rebounds, 9 assists on 6 for 15 shooting. So obviously not the best shooting night, but he almost put up near triple-double stats. And what was clear from this game was that when Kyle Lowry was not on the floor, the team struggled immensely on both ends. When he's there, it just shows his impact on the defensive end, especially. But even on the offensive end, we know that he makes. He's the floor general. He can score when the team has a bit of a funk. And he just showed like how important he is on the floor. And that's a little concerning to me because he's getting up there in age. And eventually, he's going to have to start taking more of a backseat role, or he's going to have to rest certain nights because he's getting older, and we can't expect him to play, 35, 40 minutes a night at this age, I believe 34 years old, continuously. And especially the last couple of seasons, having deep playoff runs, he's getting tired, and this regular season, the off season was very short. So we got to expect sometimes he's going to be out, and we have to be able to perform without him. But before I let Adam hand this one over, I'm going to also talk about OG Anunoby. He played very well. Also, he was much more aggressive than we've seen in games past. He was getting his shots off really well, creating for himself and others, and strong defense, taking on guys like Simmons, but also battling different guys on the switches. First half was obviously great, and this was his most solid game that we've seen so far. He shot very well in the second half, and he was able to end with 20 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 steals on 7 for 11 shooting and 4 3-pointers. So he was efficient. He was hitting the 3-ball like we asked of him. He was creating for himself. He was scoring and very solid on the defensive end. It basically showed that he tried to get himself more involved. And when someone like him is playing well, we have great games.
Yeah, we could see, bringing it back to Kyle, we can see that Kyle really wanted this game, especially being a native of Philly. He really wanted it. Without Kyle, I think this team would be finished. 100% I think would be below a 500 team. We're really pushing him to take over games in the final minutes. But I think the issue with that is other teams know what's going to happen. Giving him the ball and kind of being our closer, him and Freddie. And that's why we should play the final plays, I think, like any other possession. Because we don't have a closer. Whoever gets the best look, shoot it. Don't wait for someone, or don't just give the ball to someone just because of their name, right? I think it's a great quality to have, to be able to hit big shots, but I don't know if we have that cemented guy yet in this team to do that, right? And looking over to OG, I think that he's been tremendous in this game. Obviously ending up with the stat line he did finish with. Really did come out of his shell offensively, obviously hitting the 4 threes that he did, 20 points. And he guarded Simmons really well, also with the 5 steals. So he played great on both ends of the floor, and really, again, showcased his potential on why he's one of the best wing players in the league.
So Fred VanVleet, I'm going to keep this one relatively simple here. He just struggled to shoot the ball in general. The shot wasn't falling for him, but he did a really good job in the defensive end. 2 blocks and a steal, helped defense on guys like Embiid driving to the rack. He tends to hedge off his guy and help the center if he got blown by. Like Embiid was just taking over tonight, so whenever he would get around Baines, just blow right by him, you would see VanVleet try reaching in and getting a poke or something, and it helped a lot. And obviously his rebounding and assists were good this game. He ended up with 8, 6, and 6, and 3 for 12 shooting. So shot wasn't falling, but he did a lot of other stuff around the court. And although it wasn't his best night, he still proved somewhat useful to stick to guys like Curry or help defense and just contributing in other ways. Moving on to Pascal Siakam here. This one was a below average game, by far. The stats obviously put up 20 points in the end, 6 rebounds, 2 steals and a block, but he shot 8 for 23, so near 34%, maybe 35%, and he had no assists, which was one of the shocking points for me. He was doing a better job, I think, at creating in games past for others, and this game he couldn't do that, and his shot was definitely not falling for him at all. He did help to rebound the ball, and the defense was decent, on the blocks and the steals. But Tobias Harris was letting it up on him a little bit. And because it looked like overall he was a little bit tired, most of his jumpers looked short, and he wasn't playing with as much tempo on the offensive end that we were used to. I don't know if it's from trying to control the pace, because that was a problem in games past, but he didn't look like he had the same energy that he used to. And the second half in general, it kind of just looked like he forgot how to shoot. Nothing was going in. He couldn't catch a pass. The ball was falling out of his hands on layups. He shot horribly. Frustration fouls near the end. He left the game early, walked off the court, and got in trouble for that later on. So overall, he was very frustrated with himself in that game, and obviously us fans were as well, watching him basically do nothing in the second half. And late games, that tends to be a problem that we've seen so far. Nick Nurse is calling him a closer and saying that he needs to work on balance and strength, but yet we haven't seen anything about being a closer so far, and I don't think we're going to see it anytime soon if he keeps playing like this.
My opinion on Fred VanVleet, I thought he played an okay game, finishing obviously with 8 points, 6 assists, going 2 for 8 from 3. His shooting hasn't been there so far throughout the first 3 games, not including the Knicks game, which we did see. And but one thing that he has been great at is the consistency through his defense. Throughout the game, he was deflecting balls, stealing the ball, making good rotations. He's always been solid defensively, and that's why I think Nick always plays him above 35 minutes. Is just because he's always giving you that solid performance on the defensive end as a guard, contesting shots, rotating. He does everything on the defensive end that the Nurse really wants him to do. Moving on to Pascal, I thought in this game he's being placed in a role that he's not ready for. And it's really showing. He's not using his strengths. He's not being efficient. No free throw attempts. This was a big issue, I think, in this game. How can you not draw free throws if you're the prime vocal point of the offense? It's not good. No assists as well. The playmaking. These are things that he's got to improve. He's really got to show that he can be a playmaker. And it's just not really there. And I think this is because he couldn't get by anyone one-on-one. Ben Simmons did a great job on Pascal Siakam, locking him down one-on-one. So they don't even have to draw a second defender and help Ben Simmons, because he was doing a great job just handling one-on-one. And that's why I think the assists, there were none, right? And closing out at the end of the game, I don't think it's Pascal Siakam, to be honest, for the answer. He wasn't learning from his opportunities given at the end of the game. First play of the game as well, Simmons drives by Siakam for a layup. Has to lead by example. Starting off to a game, you can't let that happen. Ben Simmons is not the best three-point shooter or jump shooter. Let him shoot. Lay off of him. Why would you let him go to his strength and get to the rim? It's just nonsense. I think it's just not thinking on the court. And then to top it off, the last 7 minutes, Pascal committed 5 personal fouls, and then fouls out, and then even walks to the tunnel and doesn't spend the rest of the game with his team. And that's not a great leader, man. If he wants to understand the situation and be a great leader and trying to move this team forward, I'm telling you, that is not the way to do it. It's just unacceptable. And we haven't seen a Fred and Pascal duo for a long time. Just a pick and roll. We haven't really seen it too much this season. I want to see them working together. I know they admire each other's games. Let's see it. Let's see what they can bring. And that's my opinion on those two guys.
Yeah, that walk out to the tunnel seemed like pure frustration. And it's it makes sense in my opinion, just for the 5 fouls that he got and the absolute poor performance. He should be embarrassed. Obviously it's a little disrespectful to walk out, but I can understand it's pure frustration, and Nick Nurse took action on that, sat him out the Knicks game for disciplinary measures. And Nick Nurse made this point. I don't know like the true 100% validity in the statement, but I think it's something that we should like just consider. He was talking about Pascal Siakam driving to the rack and driving to draw a foul instead of driving to make the basket. So when he drives to draw the foul and doesn't get the call, the basket doesn't go in because he's not focusing about making it. He's focusing on the contact and getting a call. And when that doesn't work for you, like to this game, you don't get any calls and you end up missing all those baskets. That's where the problem begins. But yeah, let's just move on to Aaron Baines, the last starter here. He made a lot of mistakes in this game, in my opinion, in terms of defense against Joel Embiid, offensive awareness. I felt like he was fumbling passes from Lowry, not doing well in the pick and roll. Lowry tries giving him some handoffs, and he just not. The chemistry is clear; it's lacking because there's certain handoffs or plays where Lowry tries giving it to Baines in these close quarter areas, and he just doesn't realize what's happening. He doesn't know that Lowry's tendencies to hand off are like Serge or Mark once did, and it seems like the pick and roll is not being as effective as it could be, and hopefully that grows with time. He had 2 turnovers and 3 fouls in the first half, and I was very confused. We didn't see Boucher at all, and that was, I guess, due to matchups. We'll talk about that, but I think that he just got absolutely dominated by Embiid on both ends. Embiid was blocking him. He went like 1 for 8 shooting, and Embiid was just torching him on the other end, just scoring-wise. He was blowing by him, attacking him strong, drawing calls. There was nothing he could do. And then Norman Powell, our 6th man, just to keep on this run here, he had flashes of old Norman and flashes of preseason at the same time. It was hard to tell which way he was going here. He looked confident and aggressive. He just needed to make more shots and keep the confidence up. In the first half, he did decent, but he had a bad second half, and there was a lot of preseason Powell being shown in the second half where he had a lot of missed shots, missed 3-pointers, and it was kind of like night and day the first half, second half for him, and hopefully we can see an improvement. The Knicks game, we did see the improvement there, but in this game, he had 6 points by the end, 2 for 7, and that's obviously not what we want.
Yeah, going back to Aaron Baines, I thought, to be positive, I thought Len and Baines putting them together in this, I thought they did well without fouling. Embiid, when they didn't foul, I thought they played great positionally and kind of locked them up. But the problem here with this game is they gave Embiid 16 free throw attempts. They were fouling Embiid for no reason, sticking an arm in, and Embiid is that crafty player in the post that will draw fouls. He is very physically intimidating, and it was really showing tonight. Baines and Len, in the future, we could be playing the 76ers in the playoffs. So, I think they should watch Marc Gasol film on how he guarded him, to physically, hold position and lay off. Embiid is not another guy, not a good jump shooter. Stick off of him. You don't need to press so high. And by doing that, Embiid was smart, played into that, and he drew a lot of fouls off of that. So I think Baines and Len just got to be more patient and let the center come to them instead of pressing up so tight when there's no reason to. He's not a stretch big. He's not a big threat from downtown and from the jumper. So that's what I think there. And then Norm, I thought his key is just has to take what is the defense is giving him. In this game, again, just not that effective. Didn't do much on the defensive end. Nurse played Stanley Johnson as well, more than Norm. And I think that was really a point to make. I think he did that on purpose to just kind of get Norm to play much better, I think, just to start a fire there. And he made some stupid decisions. I want to bring up the out-of-bounds play. When the ball was crossing half court, Norman Powell picked it up, and it was going out of bounds to be Raptors ball. Norman Powell picked it up, tried to make a hustle play, and then stepped out of bounds. And this is just a strange play. I don't think it was a smart play. And I think making too much of these can hurt the Raptors in the end, losing possession. But it was okay. I think Norm, looking to the Knicks game, I think he played very well, so we will talk about that soon.
Alex Len, you mentioned him, and like you said, I think he had decent minutes defensively when he wasn't fouling, and he tried doing what he could on the glass. And it was a little raw, I think, trying to fit in on the offensive end. There is potential in the pick and roll, I think. Like, it created the space and necessary, but I think he was doing it a couple times with Fred VanVleet, and he just wasn't catching passes, or he wasn't necessarily ready for the play. And I think maybe just like Baines, a chemistry issue, I would say. But what was nice that we did see a lot of him this game. He played 21 minutes total. Nurse looked for Len off the bench at the 5 position instead of Boucher because of the matchup, the strength, I guess, trying to guard Dwight Howard. And he picked up some rebounds. That all he did was like the screen and pass plays. He didn't really get himself involved shooting the ball or driving to the rack. And he did have 4 turnovers. Definitely, he tried his best on Embiid, but there was points where he was struggling, and Embiid's movement seemed a problem against everybody. Cause he was just picking spots, whether it be the mid-range, the post, the 3, and I think maybe Len and Baines are used to more traditional centers on the inside and not too much movement from 3, and they wanted to help, contest the inside, and they didn't really want to run around like Embiid does. Johnson, you also mentioned, he had great defense. I love that from him. He put a lot of energy on there, but he kind of struggled to shoot the ball. His jumper form is not the best. He had 21 minutes of play, 7 points, 8 rebounds, 2 steals, a block, but it was 3 for 7 shooting. We looked a lot to him, I'm guessing because of size, his defensive ability and size against Philly's very tall team. It seemed to work well. It just looks like offensively he's still struggling kind of to make the right decisions or get his shot off. Matt Thomas, he played very little, probably also because of matchup reasons. He's 190 pounds, 6'4", doesn't really fit the most well into this game. And Boucher, same thing. He didn't touch the floor that much either. I understand Nurse wanted the matchups here. He's very skinny, and the few minutes he was on, I believe, was like 4 minutes. We saw Dwight Howard kind of boxing him out from our own basket, and the strength was very prevalent, especially because Dwight Howard's one of the strongest players in the league. The lack of strength from Boucher was prevalent, so it makes sense matchup-wise. But what I think Nurse should have done, especially coming off of Boucher's one of his best performances so far, I think he really should have put Boucher at the 4 and took off Pascal, who was shooting horribly. I think Boucher would have been perfectly fine over there. Another tall player. He looked to the 2 centers in the Knicks game, and I think he could have did the exact same thing here with Boucher trying to spread the floor a little bit with his 3 ball offensively. That would have worked. And defensively, I think it was just worth a try, especially because he got very little minutes for how well he did earlier. So that was just my opinion on that.
Yeah, I just want to touch on Stanley before we get to the next game. I thought Stanley had a great game, used his physicality for a guy that hasn't played much minutes, in the rotation. And he did look like he fit in. And I think that was a big question mark that Nurse will want to answer in the coming games. Can he be that bench power forward that we need? He does bring the rebounding, which we did get out-rebounded in the first 3 games. So that is a positive. He's a big body on the boards, and he looks to grab the rebound, boxing out his man. And I think, Stanley can be a positive. I just want to see how consistent he is on the offensive end. But if he could bring his energy, he can be a really good fit.
Yeah, so player of the game this game was Kyle Lowry. Obviously, fantastic night. But we did lose 100-93, and we went 0-3. So we were very heated after this game. We were going to record the podcast then, but we decided, let's see if the next game we win and maybe let cooler heads prevail. And luckily that happened. But just to quickly give a shout out, Embiid obviously torched us, 29 points, 16 rebounds, 2 steals, 2 blocks. He was doing everything out there. Tobias Harris, 26 points, 11 rebounds, 2 steals, 2 blocks. Even Seth Curry had a good night with 17 points. So they obviously guys that are playing really well. And we look to the New York Knicks game to be a clear chance at breaking our record from going 0-3. We needed to break that streak, and luckily we did. Some good performances here tonight. Fred VanVleet being one of them. He was very aggressive on his drives. He helped to create on offense. He had 5 assists in the first half, and he was even contributing by scoring himself. His shooting percentage wasn't the best in the first half. We've kind of been seeing that so far in the season, but he did turn it around in the second half. He shot very well after that. He made the next 5 out of his 6 shots there, and his 3-ball, especially late game, proved very clutch. Great precision, clean stroke, and he ended with 25 points, 5 boards, 7 assists, and above 50% shooting. So that was obviously fantastic, helped us win this game, turn it around in the end. Not to mention his help defense was fantastic. He was able to pick up a steal and a block. Defense on his own man was great. And without him, this game could have been a long loss. Like I said, Pascal Siakam, he didn't play this game. So OG started at the 4 and Norman Powell started in the 3. So that's another good guy I want to talk about, Norman Powell. He had a couple mistakes, here and there, but overall he came out really aggressive. He looked very angry. I think he was just fed up with his past performances and he wanted to make this a good game, especially because he knew he would get the minutes. So he took a couple of hard drives, made a jumper, had that huge dunk in the second quarter, and just showed that he wanted to be there. Second half as well, very strong, and was able to end with 17 points, 7 for 13 shooting. His catch and shoot 3 wasn't on fire as it was last season. That still looked like he needed some rhythm back into it, but he showed his driving ability, come back full force, and when his shots weren't falling, he wasn't letting that affect him like he did games past. He just drove to the rack, took some great chances, good looks, and was able to just rack up the points and be a force this game. These are the games we kind of need from him. He was doing great at creating his own offense and breaking some cold spells, which is what we look to him for. Hopefully he can continue to do that in the next games this season.
Yeah, Norm, I just wanted to bring up, his stats have been much better, when he is starting. And I think that's due to confidence. I think Norm is a very confident person, and I feel when he sees that the coach believes in him and puts him in that starting lineup, he does tend to do much better. And he just came out this game. He looked like he had some fire in his eyes. He looked like he was a bit pissed off from the previous games, and he wanted to really prove a point. Probably got a lot of hate for those 3 games, and I think he just proved that everyone wrong. And once again, why he is the player that the Raptors need to really focus in on and can be that difference maker and the X factor, especially coming off the bench when Pascal gets back in. Yeah, he had a great game, obviously, with the 17 points. Freddie had a huge, obviously, performance with the 25 points, and he really did it all on both ends with the steals, the blocks, the assists. He's expanding his game with the mid-range, a couple tough shots, one from downtown over Randall in the corner, to put us up by 6. That was a huge shot at a pivotal point in the game. And also he was kind of doing a loop around the hoop, and he kind of shot arcing mid-range again over Randall, and it was beautiful. It went over the height of the backboard, and it just dropped right in. It was a perfect shot, and I think he's got to keep on utilizing that mid-range because teams are giving him that space to shoot it, and I think he's done a tremendous job using that.
Yeah, like I said, tons of clutch shots there late game, and when he makes them, he gets going and he's hot. We know we can lift him to close games, and that's what I think we need for this team. Kyle Lowry, he did have a solid night himself, though. We can't complain about that. He had 20 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, plus 2 steals, about 50% shooting. So obviously that is a solid game for Kyle Lowry and his numbers. Can't complain about that. And, his offense wasn't, the best this game, but his defense was quite good. And second half, he turned it up. He wanted to do well this game. So we're glad on that. And OG, sadly, had a polar opposite of the last game. He had a horrible shooting night, 1 for 10 from the field, 0 for 7 from 3, and these 3-pointers, they weren't like the worst shots. A lot of them were wide open, kickouts, and he tried to make up for that with his defense. He had 7 boards and a steal, plus with no Siakam, we kind of needed his size until we got Boucher in there, but for him, he just struggled tonight, and it was like a real opposite of the last game, so that was disappointing to see. And for Aaron Baines, our starter, not very aggressive on either end of the floor. Like I said last game with Philly, same thing. Looks like he needs more chemistry with the team, those handoffs with Kyle, not catching passes, and overall just a quiet game because I thought Boucher and Len stepped up a little bit more. Boucher late game, Len, I think third quarter, they kind of took over the second half, so Baines went a little quiet.
Yeah, once again, to bring in back to Kyle Lowry, showed out a great vintage performance, again with the 20 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists. And he's really falling in love with the 3-ball once again this season and has been really efficient with it. Leading by example with plenty of hustle plays, which benefited the Raptors in the end. Kyle really showed out and he really showed why he said in the interview that they really needed this first win to get them kick-started. So he really played his part. OG, obviously by the stats, it looks pretty deceiving, but he did play very well defensively, held Randall to a below average performance for the underrated player Randall is. And offensively, obviously, couldn't find his rhythm. And I think we just gotta stop putting pressure on OG and just let him be himself. Let him play out there. He isn't a primary ball scorer, and we should just understand that. We just have to take into consideration that he brings such great defense, and that's his kind of role for the team. And we don't want to push him too soon early on in his career. So I understand OG, and it's okay for him to not be performing amazing every night on the offensive end because of what he brings defensively. So we got to understand that. Bringing it back to Baines, he didn't have the best of nights. He only played 14 minutes, ended up with 3 points, 4 boards. Does he have a role in the offense? Gabe, what's your opinion on this? Because you have said with Kyle Lowry playing passes in the pick and roll to him in his chest, and he's hasn't been really looking up. What's your opinion there?
Honestly, I think that he doesn't fit that well into the offense in terms of like getting himself involved. I think he plays a part on the offensive glass or the handoff near the rim once in a while, but I honestly don't see him as the offensive threat that we used to have, let's say, with Serge Ibaka, that pick and pop game, the pick and roll, or like when Boucher likes to do the same thing. I don't see as much in Baines. The screens are great, and he's a big body. He sets good screens, so the pick and roll should work at times. I just don't see it being a focal point of the offense as more of just setting the screen to get some space for the guard, because I think that Kyle, Fred are having, solid games so far that they can score the ball. They're great at doing that. And as long as OG, Norm, one of those guys step up, we can have good games. Pascal has to prove to be efficient. I just don't see Baines being a scoring threat this year at all. And, hopefully he can just alleviate some of the offense at times, offensive glass, putbacks, but I don't see him being a big part, to be honest.
Okay, great response. And, he did get injured, though. He took a shot, I believe it was from Mitchell Robinson in the face, but I think he will be ready to play next game.
I just want to touch upon kind of the two bigs here. Len, he came on in the third, shot 3 3-pointers in that quarter, made them all, totaled 11 points, 3 for 4 shooting. He got really hot in the corners there, kept shooting them when open, and I think it's good that he was confident with his shooting ability, and it's a good asset. If Pascal gets injured this season, we look at like a 2 big man lineup like we did this game with a Boucher at the 4 and someone else at the 5. I think it's nice getting the bigs involved. We need some size once in a while, and Len put up a good fight here, showed why he deserved some of the minutes on both ends of the floor. So I think that was a great performance from him. And Boucher, he wasn't the best offensively in the first half. He was kind of quiet to start the night, but things got much better, especially in the fourth quarter. He hit that big 3 around like 7 minutes left in the game, and it was one of the turning points there, a big dunk and 1 late game. But, most of the game he struggled besides that fourth quarter, and I think that when it mattered most, he just did a good job making the N1s, making plays, trying to be aggressive, attacking the basket, and I liked seeing him in the power forward position, kind of testing out the waters there, especially with no Pascal, if that ever happens again, or OG struggling. I think 2 bigs on was interesting, and 9 points, 9 boards, and a block. I think it was just he did a good job closing the game out, and it wasn't the best performance all around, but coming up big in the end, that's definitely what you want to see from a player, and it helped us close this one out for sure. Quickly, I just want to also mention Watanabe and Johnson. They kind of had very similar games, especially on paper. They were both great defensively, offensively not much contributing, but they both had 4 boards. I think Johnson might have had 2 assists and Watanabe 1 or something like that. But they both shot 0 for 2, 0 points. But they did do a great job defensively, though. They were hustling. Watanabe was keeping plays alive in the offensive end, jumping at tipping balls. Stanley was doing a good job defensively like we saw last game. Just hopefully they can get more involved in the offense and prove some of their worth there.
For sure. Bringing it back to Boucher, I thought he's really proving a point to Nick. Why he should be the starting center? Why can't he be? I know he brings a lot of energy off the bench, but why can't he be that starting center that the Raptors need? He had 9 points, 9 rebounds, 2 assists, and was very efficient. I thought he came out and played his game. Gave a typical Chris Boucher game, rolling to the rim, getting a lot of blocks, paint protecting, which is a very underrated quality of his, and not just blocking shots, but also contesting shots with his long arms, and he's really using his length to his advantage. And Len had a great game, obviously, with the 3 3-pointers, matching the Knicks total for the game. The Knicks shot 3 for 36 from 3 this game. So that was, that's pretty sad, but Len matched their total. And he had 11 points, 12 minutes. I thought he had a great game. And I think he can be challenging Nurse again to kind of move Baines to the third spot in this rotation. There's nothing set in stone here, and we will see what happens here. But do you think Len can hit the 3-ball consistently, Gabe?
I'm not too sure. Historically, we haven't seen the most from his 3-ball. It just looked like he caught some fire tonight and was shooting well. Hopefully he just keeps that streak up, shoot confidently, and hopefully they fall and it becomes a trend, but I can't say for certain anything right now. And that New York Knicks stat was crazy because I think they also were like at one point leading the league in 3-point percentage, like for this season, even though it just started. But they were leading, and to have that performance was quite drastic. And Boucher, I'm glad you mentioned it because I wanted to also mention that as well. Although we didn't get all the blocks tonight, his contesting around the rim was fantastic. Really used his length to change shots around the rim.
Yeah. Also, Watson, Bembry, Flynn, all played 2 minutes. So we can't really comment on their play because we didn't see enough game action there. And I think it's a great win. I think it's a great kickstart to the season. But also it's not something to really celebrate. We did beat the laughing stock of the NBA with the New York Knicks. But overall, a great game to get the team rolling again and back on track. I think the Knicks could have used Fred in the offseason. They were missing a bit of shot making and playmaking there.
Yeah, luckily we got this one, 183. Terence Davis, the only guy we didn't mention. Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised in his performance. He looked like he was anxious to finally be playing. He was trying to be aggressive with his drives and to do his part on both ends. He contributed, I think, 10 points in this game and overall played a solid role off the bench. I want to see more of him considering the great season he had last year, being in that contention for like the 4th or 5th spot for Rookie of the Year. His name was being brought up. So obviously he's capable of being a good player off the bench for us, and it was good that we got to see him finally. And even Malachi and the other guys, even though it was for limited time, at least we saw them. But the player of the game tonight obviously was Fred VanVleet. He took over in the second half, helped us win this game. And for the other team, Randall had a decent game, not his best, but decent. 16, 10, and 5. Showed great strength and aggression on the basket. His execution was pretty solid tonight, but like we said, defense was stopping him quite well, especially in the double team. Fred VanVleet getting in there, helping out. He did a good job. And Kevin Knox, 16 points, 6 boards as well. And Alfred Payton, 14, 3, and 4, 7 for 12 shooting. So they had some pieces, but definitely not the best franchise. So we're glad that we won this one, but we were expecting to win this one. But I guess we're going to see what happens now. We are 1-3. Not the best record. We expect more from our team, and so far it's been disappointing. This game hasn't proved much in my eyes because the other 3 games were quite disappointing in how it turned out. We blew 10-plus point leads in each game. We somehow gave it away. That third quarter for us is looking tragic right now, and we need to turn that around, especially against the tougher opponents. We're going to see how we face off here, but so far, I guess this is how the regular season might start looking. We lost some big pieces, and hopefully we can still get a nice playoff run this year.
Yep. All positives ahead for the Raptors. And one last thing, I just wanted to say how Pascal handled the situation. Obviously not playing well the night before, and I think he handled it very well by cheering on his teammates and didn't look too fazed by it. Took it in a great manner, and Nick Nurse also in the post game said it was an internal matter. So we don't know what he did afterwards in the locker room, but I think that was fair. I think they didn't discipline him with money or didn't fine him or anything. So I think that was the right thing by the Raptors organization. Gabe, what's your opinion on that?
I think a fine doesn't do much. They all got good money on them. I think taking away the sport that they love and taking away their chance to perform and execute and probably build up their name is even more of a disciplinary measure. And I think the key word there being an internal matter. We all saw him walk off the court. We know that was an issue, and they alluded to that. But for the fact that they used the word internal matter and they didn't want to elaborate on the walkout, like you said, I think there might be something going on behind the scenes there. Maybe there was an altercation or some type of verbal confrontation after the game about it. And, I think he did handle it well. Nick Nurse handled it well, but even Pascal, he seemed to be, supporting his team on the bench and hopefully learned from this and, took this opportunity to realize that even when he's not on the floor, the team managed to get a good win without him. And hopefully that gives him some motivation to come back in with a lot more effort and to help his team get to that spot. Okay, that's pretty much it, guys. For people that are still sticking around, we hope you enjoyed. Please like and subscribe as always, And yeah, that's us signing out.
Peace.